co-dom working in a midtown dungeon, and I've been a full-service sex worker in my life. And a lot of that is what's influenced the storytelling in the book. So thank you for being here and giving us a space to talk about this life experience. May I read to you? During dinner at the Versace mansion in Miami, I flirted with the waiter while my companion was away from the table. I told the waiter exactly what kind of arrangement this was. He asked me if I wanted to meet later in one of the unoccupied rooms. He was young and chiseled, and though I'm certain the sex would have been truly earth-shaking, I was already involved in a top-secret mission. I didn't want anyone from work or anyone back home to know where I was or what I was doing, and that was a familiar state of being by this point. My companion was a white man in his late 70s, standing well over 6 feet tall. He had a head of solid white hair and a face with the charm of Warren Beatty, a great, wicked smile. He was very handsome, but nearly mute. We'd met before at a few lifestyle events that I'd covered. I was one of the anchors of Naked News. I went on a lot of these trips to lifestyle events around the world. We'd reconnected when I was sent for a second visit to Negril, Jamaica to make content documenting the gluttonous depravity of Young Swingers Week at a world-renowned sex resort, a resort my companion happened to own. I had been before and I found it brutal but tolerable. Everyone lacked depth, everyone was sunburnt and sloshed. Most of the conversations were about how sexy everyone was, and the kind of sex they wanted to have with each other. And it becomes quite dull, actually, because that much sex saturated into a setting just bleeds it dry of its glory and its mystery, the same way fast food quite literally butchers the romance of beef and the profound sacrifice of the animal, because I believe we're also just bags of meat. He and I spoke about how palpable the chemistry was between us, and I may have been laying it on a little thick because I was 26 years old and I saw in him a ticket to much more. He was a multi-billionaire after all, and I was lost in life. We agreed he'd pay me a day rate, fly me to Miami where he lived part-time. He asked me what hotel I wanted to stay at, and I hadn't been to Miami since a road trip with my ex and knew nothing beyond my wanting to have dinner at the Versace mansion. Within minutes, there we were. He had the bellhop bring our luggage inside. He had us booked into Gianni Versace's bedroom. The room was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever seen. It didn't feel real. Nothing could ever compare to the gaudy exuberance of that room. The most fantastical element was the bed. It must have spanned 12 feet wide. Pillows were piled into artful structures of luxury, all gold and deep jewel tones. Winged baby angels peered from golden corners. Every inch of that room just burned my eyes with excess. I had no money at this time in my life. I lived in deadly credit card debt, shameful overdraft. I was bankrupt while standing in that room. I looked at my companion and he looked back at me and boyishly flickered his brows, signaling this was the moment. We had simple, one-position sex with a condom. He told me how important condoms are in the sex-positive community and how more men should get used to reaching orgasm with them on. Right? He had decent thrust power, but certainly felt his age on the surface of his skin. It was a dry and wafer-thin coating on him, delicately draping and drooping in areas. He wanted his nipples twisted and pulled before reaching climax. I don't know why this is so popular with some men of a certain age. He made little to no sound. His expression hardly changed. He had no smell, no unsightly body hair. There was nothing I could complain about. The sex was mediocre. But everything about the context was fucking mind-blowing. Oh, the ache. to be living such a bucket list experience with someone so bland. That bedroom deserves the fuck of a most ravenous couple that makes use of the oversized wrestling mattress adorned in the world's finest linen. It's the kind of place to have a new sexual experience, like anal sex or group sex, though I suppose it was a first with him. At that point, he was the oldest man to have ever penetrated me. When I was 14, my father told me about one of the greatest loves of all time, Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. A most consuming love. He spoke of its roar and rapture as something otherworldly. With his distinction of this love being so almighty, I knew I had to study it. We watched To Have and Have Not. I don't remember much of the plot because I wasn't watching for that. I was studying, assuming the direction they'd been given as characters was how they actually loved each other, of how love actually was. I would spend most of my life trying to recreate a love like that, wondering if it was a massive age gap I should be pursuing in partners. I watched Lauren lure him with her cool composure, as if not a single breath hadn't been perfectly curated. The way she propped herself up against walls and furnishings, the way her voice stayed at that predatory hush and gnarl, never, ever exploding into a fit of emotions. If that's what it took to secure a most almighty love, then perhaps I'd have to get good at containing myself like she did. I'd have to master being cool like she was, even when it hurt, even when it burned up inside of me. I'd have to get good at keeping it down, at swallowing it so I might be able to voice something slick that landed as most assured. Walking out of the Versace onto the terrace, my jaw dropped at the sight of the pool. That famous gold pool. We had so little to talk about. It felt obvious to me that this would be a one-time thing, and therefore I better enjoy it. I thought of all the women that made a living like this, the women that did this every single day of their lives. It was certainly easy, but I was bored by every bit of him and everything he could offer, because it wasn't companionship. It wasn't an openness to knowing anything about me. There was nothing compelling between us. I don't know why we even tried to hold a conversation after having sex. He had taken me shopping, put me up at the Versace mansion. The score was fucking settled. The experience of it was void of any and all meaning. I wasn't advancing my life in any real way. I was floating on top of it, and it was a lonely place. Money can really make that happen. How pointless is it all when there's nothing to debate about, nothing to yearn for, to hunger desperately for. Nothing changed his frequency. Nothing blew his mind. Nothing rocked him. Nothing shook him. Nothing scared him. He existed in a stable flat line of luxury comforts. You can actually avoid yourself and your life with enough money. You can avoid reassessing happiness and how to attain it. I knew I would never be happy like this. I knew I would kill myself if this were my life. I swallowed my meal. I spent the night sucking his cock, and in the morning, I soaked in that pool, that golden frame of grandeur, casing absolute nothingness.